weekly show. We do 11:30 Eastern every Sunday. No Rody today because he is out. But Sheets, we're happy to have you back and doing a little bit better. It sounds like.
Yeah, doing much better. Would be my fifth or sixth day of symptoms. Actually, I traced it back to Tuesday. So um, almost all the cold symptoms are gone. Just have kind of residual, kind of like tiny little headache, and not to be gross, but a little upset stomach. But
Mhm.
aside from that, I'm ready to maybe a little tiny cold symptom left. But I'm very happy that I got it as low as I did.
Yeah.
Um, and So far, Mrs. Sheets is clear, but we've been pretty good about the quarantining within the house and stuff, and we'll see how that goes.
That's good, man. I'm glad to hear that things are going better. It's obviously weird times. Sorry to hear it that you had it in the first place, but
Well, I would like to say, by the way, I feel a little bit of pressure, because I usually in the NFL 11:30 thing on Sunday, I'm like the third guy. It's kind of could do my thing, and I let you guys just kind of take it. I just kind of like chime in, whatever. But now I gotta like up my content by like 50% for this thing. And for those of you that were, I was really happy physically that I was able to do the NBA slate breakdown yesterday, and I went live yesterday as well. But let me tell you this: uh, if my takes yesterday in basketball were any indication of my ability to give takes today, you're really not going to want to listen to me at all. Yeah, yeah. Yesterday in the NBA, excuse me, these were my takes. I thought that maybe maybe not 100%. Anyway, um, my takes were that Nikola Jokic was like a lock, and that you really didn't even want to fade him by playing guys like Harden or Bradley Beal. And in addition to that, that the 3K and to 4K guys from Detroit or whatever were just guys that you wanted to kind of stay away from. They weren't really great value. So the good thing is all of the takes were bad. So it's not like, oh, I just got a couple of things wrong. If you followed me, you literally got last in like everything. So it's all out of the way, hopefully. And I would consider all those takes kind of COVID inspired. And well, let's just see if I can be a little better with the NFL, because as they like to say, couldn't be worse. So let's I guess get into it.
All right, let's do it, buddy. All right, well, let's talk about it. Hopefully, it'll be a little better today.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of spots. Like, I mean, this is a huge slate. We haven't had a slate this size yet, and there's obviously a lot of really, really good plays everywhere. So, what are you sort of honing in on? What are you targeting?
The terror feeding you.
What's that? I don't know what that is.
You deserve to die.
I have no idea. Oh, here, there might be something open previously on my computer. This looks like Hulu. Anyway,
Wow.
sorry,
Okay.
I think that was what's it called? That show I recommended before.
The Yellow Jackets or
Yeah.
Station 11?
Yeah, it's Yellow Jackets.
I watched it last night before I went to sleep. The most recent one.
Oh yeah, I only got through like 20 minutes of it, and before I put it on pause for tomorrow. So I'm looking forward to it tonight. All right, let's get it today, Sheets. What games are you looking at? What players are you looking at to maybe pair in your stacks? And I guess we should start off with maybe Trey Lance and how much Trey Lance you have, and if so, are you playing him naked?
I currently have zero Trey Lance. And I guess it's just going to be a leak of mine I take to the end of the season.
Mm.
I've just always I just and again, like, results just don't bear this out, but I'm just so stubborn with the idea that I want to play quarterbacks and the receivers together, that I just avoid stuff like this. And people that have won the Millie with like Hundley, they've won it with I guess Lamar from time to time
Mm-hmm.
without pairing them. But just kind of the way I build, I just am not getting to it. So that's just where it's going to be for me. And as I said, could be COVID induced, could be whatever. But I currently have zero Lance on any slate.
Interesting. I actually ended up with more Lance than I thought I was going to end up with because the lack of value on this slate, which is pretty interesting that we have this giant slate in the COVID era and we don't really have like obvious standout value. I mean, we could talk about Barrios or Pringle or Moreau or Steven Anderson, but it's not like these guys are screaming that they need to be played. So because of the lack of value, I don't mind it. And I've watched too many times over the last couple of years, especially these low tiered quarterbacks not even paired or paired with somebody. But I think you can play Lance without pairing him. You hope for literally just one rushing touchdown, and anything else is a bonus. And I think that's definitely a viable route. But I don't think it's I like the idea of fading him more than I actually found myself able to today. The things I'm looking at is if he gets me 18 fantasy points, we see this happen all the time. The winning quarterback gets you 18 or 20 fantasy points, and the other guys, get you 35. It doesn't matter because you're going to have receivers that are going to go nuts. You're going to have running backs that are going to go nuts and all that. So if you're not playing, I'm currently about 25% Trey Lance. I have more of them than I thought I would be having going into the slate. Who are you using? Who are you maybe overweight the field on? I guess everybody else you'd be overweight the field because nobody else is projected to be owned that high.
Yeah. Now, first of all, who do you think is going to be the quarterback for the Ravens?
Huntley.
It isn't Huntley. Okay, because I currently, believe it or not, after I don't want to say trashed or whatever, I do have like 10% Huntley. And as you might imagine, because I compare him with Andrews, and it makes it a little prettier for me. But who I have, let's start with DraftKings. I have no surprise, people could all guess. I have about 25% Dak Prescott. I have about 20% Tom Brady, and all the guys that go with that. I got about 12% Matt Stafford and all the guys that go with that. And then I have some sprinkles. I told you about 10% Huntley. I have like 5% Derek Carr. But the guy that I'm kind of like burying the lead on, the guy I also have 24% on, and this really just feels disgusting. Okay. But I currently have 24% of Patriot stacks. With Mac Jones, Jacoby Myers, and Hunter Henry. And Myers having a freaking hamstring certainly makes that feel even worse. So I'm gonna think about that. But that's currently where I'm at right now. I think it's gonna be low owned.
Definitely low owned.
And it certainly has game script issues. You know what I mean? Being a 15-point favorite. But that's currently, I guess that's where the Trey Lance ownership went,
right.
Because everything else seemed like logical with the field, right? But
right.
I just said, and I guess that's where I'm off the board, at least on DraftKings.
Yeah, I mean, I understand it. I think Huntley is, to me, I think a much more viable than the Mac Jones personally. We haven't seen Mac Jones. I think it's season high, like 22, 23 fantasy points, and 0 rushing upside, which obviously I like in the quarterback. And Huntley obviously does have that rushing upside the way they run things in Baltimore. So I do prefer the Huntley. I currently have 10% of them as well. I like the Dak call. I'm with you on the Dak at a pretty high ownership. I'm playing 2 really big buy-ins, and Dak is my quarterback in one. I currently have Trey as my quarterback in the other, but I'm flirting with the idea of switching it to a Huntley stack. I really like the Kansas City. I'm going to be overweight on both quarterbacks in the Kansas City. Since, as I sort of said all week, I'll have more than 10% of Mahomes probably, and I'll probably have like 15% of Burrows. Those are the other guys I'm looking at, and then Kyler Murray in the last game at very little ownership, I think is just a mistake. And I really like all 4 of those guys and to go along with their stacks. So, let's take it over to running back because, guys, we'll get to the questions and everything and what's up to everybody. Thanks for tuning in and all that stuff. But what running backs are you sort of heavier on, and which ones are you fading? Who are you high on?
Yeah, for me, it's Chalk City, USA. As far as I am with running backs, that would be hold on, I gotta get back to it. That would be Sony Michel and Montgomery and I just have to refresh my page, but you know who I'm talking about. Taylor and crap. Who is the other chalk running back?
Montgomery, Michel, Ronald Jones.
Ronald Jones, right.
Yeah.
That was the other one. I don't have any real big whatchamacallit, big off the board running back takes. Are you getting different at all at running back?
Yeah, I'm going to play some Hurts stacks on FanDuel. I didn't mention him as my quarterbacks thing, but I do like him better on FanDuel, where the touchdown and rushing upside means a lot more. So if I play Hurts to Goddard, who had a huge game last time against Washington, it's a good matchup for him. And I'm running those back with Jarrett Patterson, and hoping that he gets the full workload. But his price is hard to ignore at 4,800. And what is he on FanDuel? He's really cheap over there as well. I think he's 54. I really my heaviest owned running back is Darrell Williams.
Oh, okay.
I think that we're sort of over. I think people are sort of overthinking this, and sure they may use Gore. It may end up hurting me a little bit, but I think he's got every bit of a chance to have a big game as these other guys do. We know how KC can use him, and the game script sort of suits him as well. There is some worry for me that maybe KC does just blow them out here, but I actually think that more than likely than not, this is going to be, and I think that Darrell Williams is a really good one to use. And actually, I think if I was playing cash, I might play him over these other guys. But I'm high on Michelle as well. I'm high on Montgomery, but I'm sort of getting a little bit less of Montgomery maybe than others. I'm a little lower than the field on Jones, but I still like him. I mean, 15, 20% instead of 25% or 30, whatever he's going to be owned. I don't really want to play Josh Jacobs. I don't really want to play. I'm the one I'm stuck on is Devin Singletary, who I think I'm going to try and force into some lineups.
Really?
And then also I really want to be overweight on DeAndre Swift. So those are the guys I'm using. I also think I can be overweight on Taylor. There's enough of these other guys I'm going to fade. Just I don't have the Austin Eckler. I like whatever. I like Austin Eckler a lot, but he's 8,200. It's expensive, tough matchup. I think it's weird that no one's playing Eli Mitchell. I get it, but Eli Mitchell and Rashad Penny would be the mid-tier pivots off of the guys we talked about, and Kamara would be my favorite of the pivots off of the top end, but I'm just not getting to much of it. It is interesting to me that nobody can play Zeke, and I like that game environment. And I wanted to play Connor earlier in the week. I'm having a hard time justifying it. The projections hate him. They really think it's going to be a split backfield. I'm not so sure it is. All their winning they've done is with James Conner, and James Conner has been used heavily in the passing game as well. And the best of their team was when Conner was going off. So I'm sort of thinking that I might try and get a little bit of James Conner. I am more spread out today than usual. Wide receiver, Antonio Brown is one of my highest owned wide receivers. I love the Cup thing, and there's a lot of narrative to go with it. But I do think that there's a good argument for maybe playing. It's hard to play he and Jonathan Taylor, so I think there's a lot of reason to play Taylor in this situation that he's in without the quarterback, and really like they're going to try to run the ball like crazy on the Raiders, who have shown the ability to give up a lot to the running game. But I'm sort of stuck on. I have more Berrios than I would like, and I think I'm going to switch some of that over to a longer shot play and a guy like Zay Jones. To probably get a little bit different. I like all the Browns, Antonio, AJ, and Amon-Ra St. Brown. But I think St. Brown might be my favorite of those guys. Who are you using primarily? I know it's going to be in your stacks, but you mentioned Myers, obviously, and Henry as a tight end option. But who are you using at receiver? Maybe as one-offs or guys in secondary game stacks?
Yeah, before I get into that, tell me what you mean about the narrative associated with Cooper Kupp.
He's got a chance to break every receiving record imaginable, basically, except for the touchdown record. So they're gonna keep firing the ball to him, but they don't really need. I mean, they're playing to win games right now. At the same time, he's been their best ability to do that. So he's catching 10 balls a week, basically. If he catches, I think 20 more, he'll break the catch record. He'll get over 2,000. He's on his way to over 2,000 yards if he has 2 nice games. So all these things sort of lead me to kind of want to play some Cooper Kupp here. But I still think that it's at really high ownership at his price. I think there's other guys who, even if he has a big game, other guys who can outscore him. So I'm trying to get, focus more on that. Whereas I feel like Jonathan Taylor, if he has a big game, it's going to be really hard for any other running back to compete. I forgot to mention that I love Joe Mixon today as well as part of my secondary KC Cincinnati stacks. Go ahead with wide receivers.
No, I was going to go back to receivers. So, I mean, I obviously I have like 20%, CeeDee Lamb, and like all those guys, right, from Dallas, if I'm going to have, Prescott, I'll have Schultz, but he's tight end. We'll get back to that. I also have too much Braxton Berrios. I'm currently getting like 35 to 40% of him.
Mm-hmm.
And I'd like to kind of pivot off of that a little bit myself. One, I guess we'll talk about this guy when we get to like kind of like the punt plays. So I'll hold off on that. But other guys I have a lot of. I have I have a 3K guy, 22% of. We'll get to that, I guess, in a little bit. I think Brandon Cooks is a good play. I have 20% of him. I think the game script sets up really, really nicely for him with San Francisco being a 12-point favorite. I think he's probably their only source of receiving options. And I have about 20% of him. I currently have about 70% of Antonio Brown, and it feels right in one sense, But on the other hand, to have 70% of any receiver just kind of feels wrong. But that's currently where I am. I mean, it's just gonna be hard. Look, I'm not gonna say it's gonna be hard for him to fail. It's gonna be hard for him to fail if Brady, doesn't want him to fail. You know what I mean? Like I feel as though if Brady wants to, he can do pretty much whatever he wants this game. And Antonio Brown is kind of a guy you want to keep happy, I guess. So I think he's probably going to get 2 touchdowns, and I think he's going to get 2. I think Gronk's going to get 1. I think between the 2 of them, they're going to get 3, just to keep them all, keep them happy, put the game away at halftime, and then probably you won't see them with too much in the second half. That's my thing. So with that said, I mean, like, is that enough? Yeah. I mean, Antonio Brown's price, that's going to be enough. It's not that expensive. So I'm just kind of talking through this extensive ownership I have on him. I have 10% of DJ Moore. You're the Cooper Kupp I have currently 45% of, which certainly, he's best receiver in football. Best
Right.
Why don't I? And you can play him, so why not do it? One kind of pivot off of Antonio Brown, and people are going to play him in Brady stacks, but don't let Mike Evans get too under-owned here. I can't see that being the case, but it's possible. I mean, I've seen this before when like God would become really popular and nobody would play Evans and whatever it is. Maybe just maybe. Evans is a better play. Maybe he's not a better play, but maybe he's a better player ownership. I'm just going through all my lineups. So Gallup, I'm just looking for guys that I have over 10% of. Ooh, I do have the Zay Jones, by the way, at 10%, which is kind of cool. And I have the Marquise Brown in my Huntley stacks. And that's all I have for like kind of like the good plays. I have some bad ones.
I don't know if I mentioned DJ Moore before, but I really like DJ Moore as well. And I just wanted to. I also will have some exposure to Hill, but more importantly, I think I'm going to end up with more Kelsey probably than Hill. Let's get to the tight end spot. So we have Steven Anderson at 2,500, which I think is actually very viable. Maybe more so than people think. It's just maybe a trashy whatever tight end play. They may use Trey McKitty a little bit, but the Chargers will throw the ball to their tight ends, and the main 2 are gone. So I have some interest in Steven Anderson, even though he's going to have some ownership. I think Foster Moreau is an interesting spend down. I think Cole Kmet is viable, just on the workload that he gets. I love Dallas Goedert, and then my spend ups are Kelsey. I like Ertz and stacks. I like Kelsey though as a spend up. I like. Who else did I have as my other spend ups? Kittle, Andrews, I think are all viable. If you are going to play Trey Lance with anybody, I think Kittle's probably the most logical person to play him with. Who are you looking at? One other weird one that's just because I love to attack the Chargers with tight ends is Noah Fant. Who are you looking at for tight ends?
My highest tight end exposure is not surprisingly Dalton Schultz, because I've all my Prescott. I've got 25% of him. And the aforementioned Hunter Henry. I have 29% of him. I didn't I don't get to any of this Steven Anderson. I got like 5% Foster Moreau. These are all sprinkles. I'm going back to again 12. I have like 10% of the B Jordan. Like Mark Andrews in my Huntley stacks. I have like a couple of sprinkles. I have a Mo Alley Hawk somewhere. I have a couple of Foster Moreaus, like you mentioned, and I am going back to CJ to Ozuma with a couple of lineups also, and then I have the Adam Troutman. Like this is all like Millie Maker stuff. You know what I mean?
Right.
I have a Jonnu Smith sprinkled in there. I have Gronk. I have a Gerald Everett. I'm like everywhere in tight end, honestly. But the overall, my number one guy is going to be Dalton Schultz.
Yeah, that's you're definitely off the board there. That's a good thing. There's I don't think that's going to be a popular play at all today. I like Schultz in theory, and I have him right now at 8%, which should be above the field. But I'm having trouble even in stacks justifying that he's a better play than Goddard. Both of their I know he can get there, but like Goddard has a much higher ceiling, so that's why I'm a lot higher on Goddard than I am on Schultz.
Yep.
Let's see. So Tony's saying that it looks like Jordan Howard's playing. Not sure what that has to do with Patterson. Jordan Howard is on a different. Unless did I miss something? And Jordan Howard got traded to Washington because he's on Philly. So I'm kind of confused at what that means now. I've got to go back and look and make sure I'm not missing anything weird in this Philly situation because Boston Scott, Jordan Howard are going to probably share the workload for Philadelphia. That has nothing to do with Jarrett Patterson for Washington. But yes, I do have Jarrett Patterson still to answer that question. I'll answer a few more. We just went through all the wide receivers, so hopefully that question was dated.
Well, we didn't get to the cheapos yet.
Go for receivers.
Well, because I was holding off on one. I thought we were just going over the good plays. I have some bad ones.
Okay, yeah, well, we'll get to that in 1 second. Let me just get these things real quick. K9 Bronco asked if I like Gabe Davis on FanDuel. I do like Gabe Davis on FanDuel, and I think I prefer him like over the other stacks. I actually have an Allen stack with Gabe Davis. I think that's interesting. Kevin Wise saying he's just going to throw out the Jarrett Patterson play. I don't know if anybody missed this, but I said Jarrett Patterson right off the bat, so I'm on the Jarrett Patterson. So I don't think it's totally out of the blue, but I like that. So let's see. One last question, then we'll get to Sheets' weird, as he would say, hoodoo plays. Thoughts on Lance, Taylor, Michael? These are all the plays we just talked about. So Trey Lance, I'm at 25%. I don't love it, but I'm there because I need the value. Taylor, I'm above the field at around 25%. Sony Michel, I am probably going to be with the field or maybe a little bit above. Brown is an impossible question to answer because there's 3 really viable Browns. I like all of them. Cooper Kupp, again, I like him, but I'm going to be probably below the field because of the price. Damian Harris is one that I probably should get a little bit of exposure to in this matchup. A little bit, the injury had me kind of concerned, but I'm definitely open to getting to some Harris. Singletary, I am below the field, but I probably will throw him into some lineups because I do think there's definitely like the price is nice and he could get the work, but you still do have, it's not like he's going to get all of the work there, and they still tend to use their passing game as an extension of their running game. So Zach Moss is going to get some touches. I do like Singletary fine, but I don't think that he's a priority for me. And then the other one was Patriots defense. Of course, like if you can afford the Patriots defense, go for it. The Russell Wilson last game talk, I've heard a little bit about this. I don't think I'm going to do it at all, but I do think that I will have a little bit of exposure to Metcalf. That's where I am right there. How about you, Sheets? Give us the cheapos that you're like.
Yeah, I mean, for better or worse. So one of the guys to pivot off of, if you don't want to play Berrios in the same game, and this is like he hasn't done anything all year, but I still think he has talent, and who knows? And that's Denzel Mims at 3K. I have about 10% of him, but I don't know why I have 22% of Deontay Harris. from the Saints at 3K. I don't know exactly what this is, but he had 8 targets in last time he played, and he's off the COVID list. I don't know. So that's my big, and I'm not gonna change that, because if I have something like that I guess I don't think no one's gonna play him. I don't know, but if I'm getting to a guy like that in the Millie Maker, I'm gonna keep it. That's where I'm at with that. Other. And I guess that was my only real big hoodoo play that I have like any decent amount of. I mean, did you look at him? I mean, or is he like just bad? I mean, what do you think?
Mims?
No. Deontay Harris.
Didn't really consider receivers for New Orleans.
New Orleans,
but his projection is okay for a guy who's 3K. So I don't mind if you want to use that as a little bit of a pivot off some barriers. I don't think anybody's going to play him.
Okay.
I do think Callaway, we didn't mention, would be my favorite still, but they have 6 legitimate receivers they're going to run out there, and they're going to rotate them. So
okay.
I don't know how high I would be on that one personally, and they're all projecting basically to score the same amount of fantasy points. I do think that there is some argument to be made for Callaway, but Mims, I didn't even come across that one. And honestly, like, I always get Mims and Cam Sims mixed up for some reason.
That's really funny.
I actually couldn't even think of the team at first. But that's interesting. I mean, it's not one that I might take a look at that a little bit after the show. But yeah, it's kind of interesting. Let's see, Swift against Seattle. I do like Swift. I think that they're going to sit him next week, and apparently he's going to get all the work this week. So that's very viable to answer that question. Are you getting any DeAndre Swift sheets?
No.
Okay.
Yeah, again, maybe it's the way I play. I don't really get it, and maybe this is bad. I'm not getting it too much in the running back position.
Mm-hmm.
That's below 20% owned. I mean, honestly,
that's okay. I would encourage people to, maybe you or anybody else, but I would encourage people to give a little bit of a shot to Joe Mixon here.
I always do, right? I mean, I always come up with the Joe Mixon.
He's been great all year, and had a couple down games, but I mean, he had the monster game last week. He's put up, we know there's a real ceiling for him. He's just expensive. That's just the issue. He's a little pricier than these other guys, but that's going to keep his ownership way down. Obviously, a lot of different ways you can go at running back today, so I'm not going to fault people for most of it. And honestly, there's a lot of running backs projected to be fairly chalky, so they can't all be chalk. Some of them are going to end up heavier than others. I guarantee you that I would be shocked if Darrell Williams is not higher than I have him currently projected at.
Oh, you think Darrell Williams, huh?
Yeah. I really like him. I mean, it's just a matter of how much work will he get, but I'm going to take a quick look back at, because I think this is a really important point. If guys you can get a little bit different without the running back position that could be valuable. I think his projections are wrong. I think he gets more of the work than most people think. And I think that he is every bit the play that all these other guys that we're talking about are, and is going to have lower ownership, even though, I mean, he put up 30, put up 24 in another one of his starts. And that's pretty good for his price. Now, he's a little more expensive than we're used to paying for Darrell Williams, but I do think he's interesting. And, not to give too much away, but a little shout out to Roto Grinders. But I know Noto, who I greatly respect, has him as the best running back option and for cash. So when that happens and it equals a tournament type ownership, I really like that, actually. That makes it really good. And Noto's always gets those too. He's really good with those guys. All right, keep popping in some questions, guys. Sheets, let's talk real quickly about.
Well, I want to go back to something you just said, okay? Because we got a little time here. Something you just said is really now you're talking in my kind of area of expertise. For those of you that are listening that are just kind of real kind of industry followers in a good way. If you watch all the good podcasts and you watch the Roto Grinder stuff, the Awesome stuff. I don't want to oversell one or the other, but if you're sharp and you listen to all the smart people and read all the smart people, try to get used to and this is what I did my whole life. That's made me all my money, honestly, is figure out what types of content is I don't say good, but when a certain type of guy recommends a certain type of thing, how likely that is to succeed, or try to learn boy, when XYZ recommends this, I really better pay attention because he usually recommends that. Or,
Mhm.
like Bobby just mentioned, he's learned over the years that Notorious, like when he comes up with kind of a cash game play like that at low ownership, it's probably it's probably a good tournament play. And whether it's correct or not in this particular case doesn't matter. My point is that once you start learning how to read the people who you're listening to, then you're really operating at a really, really high level.
Mhm.
And that's that's kind of like next level stuff, but that's nothing to be ashamed of, by the way, to go listen to a whole bunch of other people, because that's, again, like I run like a hedge fund, right? And I've done it for 19 years, and I've done my own did my own analysis on stocks maybe like 3 times, okay, in 19 years. I always wait for other people who are better to do analysis and then be like kind of to grill them on it. You know what I mean? And
Mhm.
learn who's good at what and who's good at whatever and things like that, and kind of like fade that and fade their tone and their voice sometimes. And I was just even getting to that before we started doing this, and I could look at more content. I would like watch an XYZ podcast and say, well, that guy seemed really like more confident than he usually does about stuff like this, or this guy, like, he always says this, but now he's really saying this. I mean, when he says that, I mean, I really better pay attention. So I figured I'd
Mhm.
just like throw that out there for those of
Mhm.
you who watch a lot of podcasts to kind of like try to challenge yourself to be like that a little bit.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think that is part, aggregating information and trying to get it from the best sources for certain things is really a way that I know the sports pretty well, but there's occasionally something that'll make me stand out. And Noto talking about guys for cash has made me especially for basketball. I mean, he's talked about guys for cash. He's usually very chalky, and then every now and then he'll have like a 5% owned guy as one of the main guys he's using for cash, and I'm like, that's probably a guy I need to have some interest in for tournaments. Anyway. Uh, all right. Let's see. I really think that if you're going to make some straight bets today, I just want to throw this out there that now there is a path where this KC Cincinnati situation lets down. I think this game has too low of a total. I could see this team where both teams are in the 30s. And I really think that's a game you want to be targeting after. And I don't understand the ownership that from just a straight bet standpoint. And I don't understand the ownership or the projections for the Cowboys receivers. I think especially Cooper feels way under projected to me. Um, so I just wanted to throw those two things out. And then I do feel like San Francisco should theoretically beat the hell out of Houston, but this Houston team is pesky, and
Yes, they are.
I think that this could be, if it wasn't a must win for San Francisco or something like that, I probably have even more interest. But that's a game that just feels like, I've been doing well with the Houston against the spread bets, so I would throw that out there as one of the bets that I'm using. Um, One of the bets that I would go for. I also don't know the Chargers are 8-point favorites against a Denver team that I don't know how they're going to keep it close. At the same time, I haven't seen the Chargers be good enough ever to be an 8-point favorite against anybody this season. So it's hard for me to get my head around the Chargers winning a
Well,
game.
let's go back to that game a little bit. Because I know that if Rhodey were here, we'd spend a little more time on that. I think that maybe we're underestimating the impact of the Denver defensive guys being out.
Mhm.
Maybe we really are supposed to just jam in all these freaking Chargers in this spot. Do you have a lot of that? Did you think about that? I mean, I know
I have
Eckler's really good,
10%
but
Keenan Allen.
okay.
I have a good percentage of Steven Anderson, who, even though he's projecting well and seems like a fishy play, is actually not going to be owned that much, which makes him less of a fishy play. I think the real thing, though, is the Denver with all their receivers out, except for Sutton. I think, there's an outside chance. You could talk about Kendall Hinton at minimum cost, and I would like that play probably a little bit better than I would the Deontay Harris play. Although now that we say to Deontay Harris and we put it out in the universe, he's probably going to score. But the real guy who should benefit is Noah Fant. I think Fant and Sutton are going to be. I've got to get some more exposure to those guys. Fant was my original favorite tight end anyway, even with the receivers, or to start the week before we had all the news and everything. But he was one of my favorite mid-tier spends, and now I'm not really, I have like 15% of them. But I think I might even want to go higher on that because they're going to have to throw the ball. Yeah, I think it's interesting. So
Currently, where is your defense exposure?
my defense exposures are, DraftKings on FanDuel, the savings with the Dolphins is helpful. The Colts are savings are helpful. I tried to get up to the Patriots. I have a full 18% of the Patriots on DraftKings. I have the Ravens, which it feels really fishy, but there's really tough on the spend downs today. So I have them at 10%. I have the Dolphins at 15%. I have the Lions as the sneaky defense of the other cheap ones. The Lions and Ravens, unfortunately, if I have to spend down, because I still think there's a path that Russell Wilson doesn't play well. Maybe they do let him go free. I think that playing in the 150s, we probably should get a Russell Wilson stack just because it is his last game. Maybe they don't decide to run the ball, 100 times like they try to do every week. But that's kind of an interesting spot to me. But it's kind of spread out. I have some Raiders, Bears, Eagles. But I love the Bucks, but they're again also hard to get to. The Patriots and the Bucks are the two defenses I expect to be able to have the highest upside. How about you?
Yeah, my highest owned is the Bears at 32%.
Yeah.
I actually had to pare that down. I was gonna get more of that.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the Giants are apparently gonna have both Glennon and Fromm trying to be quarterback. I mean, it's a horror show. It's just a disaster. And I know the Bears defense isn't as good as it was in 1986 or whatever, but I think it's a recipe. I think it's a recipe for disaster. I don't know.
Yeah, I think their upside is higher with Fromm as the quarterback. Because the one thing about Glennon, I hate he's a terrible quarterback, but he gets rid of the ball so fast. Like he's throwing the ball like he doesn't ever throw the ball downfield. Really, he just quick outs, and you're not going to get the sacks. You're not going to get the turnovers as much from a guy like Glennon, I think, as you might from Fromm. That's one thing I would say.
The other guys I have. Wow, I'm surprised I have this much of this team. I have 20% of the Colts.
Mm-hmm.
And then I got then it's the sprinkle fest. Then I got like 10% Bills. I really didn't get to and it's really weird because I have these Patriots stacks, but I don't have any Patriots defense. I have like 7% Patriots defense.
I mean, they're expensive. They're hard to get to.
Oh, that's right. That's it. Then.
Yeah.
And then just I have 5% Lions. 2% Rams, 2% Houston. That'd be a fun one.
Mm-hmm.
It's just the normal defense randomness, but I think maybe I have too little randomness. I mean, with 30% Bears and 20% Colts, I probably should pare both those down a little bit.
Yeah, you could switch over to the Raiders a little bit from that Bears play if you have too much.
Yeah.
Of it. I mean, I think the Raiders are viable. Look, it is still a backup quarterback. I know they're going to try and run the ball and they're going to do that, but you get one mistake from a quarterback on 3rd and 10, and all of a sudden you get your defensive touchdown and maybe you get a few sacks in there as well. So I think that's really viable. I think it's interesting that the Texans, that you mentioned it, that is something I could maybe see myself getting onto a little bit. Now, that's why I partly feel weird about the playing Trey Lance today, because they're really just going to run the ball, right? Like that's going to be their game plan. But part of that, I'm counting on Trey Lance being one of the guys they're using to run the ball. But I don't think they're going to allow him to go out there and make a bunch of mistakes. That's the only reason. I don't know. I'm sort of back and forth on that whole situation in general. I don't like how much Trey Lance I currently have. But it really does allow me to do some things. I think I can probably switch some of it over to some Huntleys. That's probably my best bet.
I've got so a couple of fun things to do. Now you mentioned there are a bunch of Browns. How many Browns are there? There's Antonio Brown, the St. Brown from Detroit's our third one.
AJ Brown.
And AJ Brown.
Yeah.
So if I could interest you in a Brown, right? Could I also interest you maybe then in a Patterson running back combination for $1 million?
There you go. Yeah, I mean, I don't think that Patterson. Cordarrelle is not my guy this week, but if you're playing, no.
He's a 14-point underdog, man. He's gonna get a zillion targets, isn't he?
Well, I mean, they have the situation all the time, and he's,
I guess
really the games he's gone off are Jacksonville, Washington. He might get targets. I mean, his target share has gone way down, but it's possible. And it is in Buffalo and not a good weather game. But, I could see it happening. I ended up using a little bit of Pitts because he's going to be completely unowned at tight end. But I could, there's no reason why, playing an unowned Cordarrelle Patterson is definitely kind of appealing to me, especially based on, what we were sort of on that guy before he was anything this year. And I'd like to stick with those kind of plays. But guys, dropping any more questions, we're going to get out of here in just a couple minutes because I want to finish my builds.
Yeah.
And yeah, hopefully we can get some screenshots today. Hopefully Rhodey's playing some big stuff. I know that because I saw it on Stake Kings. So hopefully one of us can take down one of those, the 22.
What do you got today? Was there like a 1500 or something?
There's 22s for.
Oh, nice.
I'm playing 2 of them for.
Oh, sweet! I'm gonna sweat that for sure.
$1 million for first on that one.
You have any action left in that or no?
Yeah, there's a little action left on that one. Not much, but a little bit. But yeah, they're pretty big ones. I'm still hunting that million after last week. I really want to get it. It feels like at least I have some sort of a chance. Whereas the $20 tournament, you just feel like, God, I had everything run so perfectly, and I still couldn't quite get there last week.
Hold on, we're gonna find this right now. Let me just see. Let's see how much Bobby has left. Okay,
got a
so
pretty good amount left.
dude, look at how good. You know what? This is what happens when you have such a long history of winning, and such a great reputation or whatever. Is that like his whole freaking slate is like Bobby's like whole slate is like sold out.
Yeah.
That's
for the most part, yeah.
Oh, that's a 4444, right? So there's $453 left.
Yeah.
So we're gonna stay on brand.
$24.24. There you go.
Worth of that. There's 25 cents left of that. There's $13 left of that. I'll just buy that one. So that's done.
Lucky 13.
That was the SPY.
Nice.
There was $13 left of that. That's now gone. And we're going to confirm that. Okay, everybody, you guys should get in there. $453 left. So 10% of that, right, is left. 46 minutes. I got to tell you, man, I'll give you guys a chance. I got $293.29 in my account on Stake Kings after I just bought it, and I'm going to give you guys until 12:45, and if 293 is available, whatever's there, it's going to get emptied into that. So I have faith. I have faith this is going to be Bobby's 2,500.
All right, let's do it. I hope so. All right, guys. Well, hey, we appreciate you being there, Sheets. Happy to have you back, man. Happy you're feeling good, and let's get it today. Good luck, everybody.
Sounds good.